Okay, I don't think that anybody who watches my channel doesn't know how much I'm massively in love with this combined deck of the Goddess Knowledge cards and the Animal Spirits Knowledge cards. This is a set of two sets of Oracle cards with the artwork of Susan Seddon-Boulay. And you can see the Goddess ones have this backing, the Animal ones have this very big piece of copyright print, which is kind of ridiculous, which I didn't even notice the first time because I was too in love with it. I mean, this has the same thing at the bottom. It just doesn't have the gray over the top of it. It is a lot of copyright text for each card. But again, I didn't even notice that when I unbox these because I'm so in love with this deck, and I still am. But as I said, when I opened these and combined them and fell in love with combining and fell in love with this deck, is that I just wish there was a Gods deck. And then I found out that she'd actually passed away, and so obviously there wasn't going to be any new artwork, and there was not a Gods deck. And so, but then I found that she has a book called The Shaman, the paintings of Susan Seddon-Boulay. I think that's how you would say that. So I purchased this on Abe Books, which is like a used bookstore kind of. It has a, it's more of a conglomerate. I think it goes out in various people selling the books, used books. And so I was able to get a copy of it for like $3.50, right around the $3.50 mark, free shipping. So it took a little while to get here with the free shipping, but I'm just like, well, when it gets here, it gets here. I have another one that I ordered just for the same price that I'm going to keep intact. After I chopped this all up yesterday and today, I was like, you know what, I'd actually like, because there's poetry in here and such, and I said, you know, I'd actually like to have that back. So I ordered another one for, again, like around $3.50 to $4 with free shipping. So yeah, so I figured, okay, I'll just go ahead and get this because, again, this is for my own use. I'm not going to be distributing it or anything like that where I think it would be a copyright issue. This is simply something I'm using for my own use. And yeah, so I went ahead and, you know, obviously I could have perhaps scanned these in, resized them, and then printed them on, you know, on paper. I don't have, my printer is a piece of crap. It needs to, you know, one of the new things that I will be replacing, but it does not print very well. And even, no matter what, you know, it's just not going to look as good as these. So I just, again, because it was so cheap to get a used copy of the book, I just took a copy of the book. I have a mail love kind of rambling where I show how I did it, and so I will put a link to that in the description box below. But I basically just took one of the cards, you know, and found one that I wanted and put it over around where I wanted it and drew lines around it and cut it out, and then I put two layers of white contact paper and a single layer of clear contact paper on the front, and created this, which I'll show you in a second. But it was as simple as that. I didn't do any kind of resizing or anything like that. I just pulled out any of the male energy that I could find to pull out. Now there's some animal ones, pure animal ones that I could, but there's a lot of animals in here already that are very masculine energy. So there is quite a bit of masculine energy in the animal spirits. I just wanted to bolster that as much as I could so that there would be some more masculine energy. And so I also got these two, a wolf and a raven. I ended up cutting these down a little bit smaller because I had a wolf and a raven from here that I've been keeping up here, but this way I could put those back in the deck and I still have those energies up there, which I quite like having, along with my raven and my wolf prayer beads. Thank you, thank you, thank you, kind people. So yeah, I really like what I have energetically going on up there. Actually, this goes on this deck. And we have some random cards here. I did pull out, there's two. There's one of these rabbits from the animal, and then there's one that's in the goddesses. I pulled the goddess one out because I'm trying to reduce the goddesses. There's another one that I pulled that I probably stuck back in here that I'm going to have to find again. Oh, I was going to pull the triple aspects because it's not a specific goddess, but I feel like this animal deities with this little boy here is sort of the masculine. I'm going to kind of use that as the masculine version of that. There are also several that have male and female energy, and like I said, there's a lot of the animal ones that do have masculine energy to them. So I was more, the other one that I was going to pull out was the high priestess, because again, it's not a specific goddess, and you know, I figured I might as well pull that out. But I ended up keeping it because I ended up using one of these. This one, he's got his eyes closed, and I kind of have him as the Hierophant. And although I will say I messed this card up a bit, and it's quite thin. It's a little bit thinner than the regular one, so we'll see how this stands up under time. But so I ended up leaving that in. I could go through here and thin out maybe some, because there are some goddesses where the energies quite overlap each other, and so I may at some point go through and kind of really, you know, see how I can par it down so that we get some more balance going on. But for now, I'm going to leave these as they are, except for that, again, I did pull this out because I don't need two of the same image. I'll stick that in its box. I need to remember to do that, so let me stick it up there. So I just wanted to show you the ones that I ended up making and who I chose. Some of them had names on them, but to be honest, I cut them out so fast that I don't remember them all, and I just kind of went with what I wanted to go with, to be honest. So this is just the Hermit energy to me. This could have been the All-Father, but I already have that. The star on his forehead and his eyes closed going inward. It just made me think of the Hermit, so I put that on there. On this particular one, I used for Raven, but the actual god, the Raven, the creator, the trick, I wrote on here. Now, I definitely could have, printed something out, onto sticky paper and stuck that on, and then gone ahead and put like a layer of clear over the top of it, and to make it much more like, is matchy. I'm not too worried about that because the way that I shuffle these are face up, and so it doesn't much matter to me. But I have the Raven as the god, the creator, the trickster, the mischief maker, which is a Native American god. So I have him. This one I did as a kind of some of the gods and goddesses, or the goddesses, and then the animals. It kind of goes through the different cultures and how they are used. This one, I just felt that very much that eagle energy there. He's got the eagle eye and then the human eye. I used Garuda and also the constellation Aquila. This to do with speed and strength. Garuda was sort of a half eagle, half man. In Hindu mythology, I think Vishnu rode on his back. In Buddhism, he's also shows up in Buddhist mythology, as well as I think he holds Aquila as holding Zeus's firebolts in other mythologies. But there's very much that idea of being the king of the birds, about intelligence, organization, but also about speed and strength and some degree to do with war. There's also the story how when he was born, he was like a raging inferno, to which he even scared the gods, and so he had to kind of reduce himself down to fit within his circumstances. So I think that's also something that you could use in terms of meaning and divinatory meanings. Here, of course, I used Odin. I want to say this was actually Odin, but I can't remember. But for me, this is Odin with, Hudin and Munin. yeah, Hugin and Moonin, sorry. So Hugin is thought and Moonin is memory, but he's a seeker and the giver of wisdom. He's very much, he opposing, like he's the god of rulers and outcasts, war and poetry, trickster and sacrifice. You know, he's got those really interesting dichotomies going on. And I'm, love the whole mythology behind Odin, and so yes, we have to have Odin. I thought this one I thought very Polynesian. There are a few Polynesian goddesses in the goddesses deck, so I thought, oh, that's good, we can balance that energy out. So I did Tangaroa. I'm sure I'm slaughtering that, but he was a Polynesian god of the sea. He was the son of the sky and the earth. And you can see the water in the background. Like, I think that's going to be really lovely. I love the eye here. A lot of this I'll just be reading intuitively, but like I do with these, but I do like to have, like, there to be some reference that it's pointing to. I use this one for Merlin, although this very much could be the hermit energy as well. But the owl sometimes you see as Merlin's familiar. I just have wizard, prophet, bard, and teacher. There's so much about Merlin, but that I don't really need to write all that down because I'm pretty much an Arthurian fan. So that's what I'm using for Merlin. And again, it's possible that one of them was One of them was Merlin, but I can't remember which one it was. This one I'm using for Horus, which is god of the sky. He's the falcon, god of order, protection. With the eye of Horus was used as a protection thing, and all the different things that we have come up with Horus. This is current. I always say this wrong. Cernunnos. I always said Cernunnos when I was reading them growing up, but it's not how you pronounce it correctly. But he was the Celtic horned god. He's that masculine energy in Celtic kind of pagan pantheon. He would be the horned god to the lady, that kind of thing. And this was actually who she painted this as, so that was not me having to pick that out. I used this one for Apollo because the hawk is his messenger. I just wanted there to be an Apollo in there. I think Artemis is in here, who is his sister. He was also the god of truth and prophecy. He was a patron of the Oracle of Delphi, and so I just thought, that's what I thought of when I saw it. The bright color stood out, although I believe that is a dolphin over here, but that's what I'm using it for, as long as you kind of figure out what it is, it doesn't really matter. This one I'm using for Wolf. Now, W-U-L-F, and this is from The Way of Weird, which was one of the first books that I read about shamanism, and it was Celtic shamanism, or, that sort of area of shamanism, pre-Christian. Where a scribe, in The Way of Weird, a Christian scribe ends up coming to pre-Christian Gaul, I want to say. I got the book over there, but I'd have to get up and get it. And he meets a shaman, and so he is introduced to the world of paganism. And there is, kind of a coming of an understanding between the two men by the end of it. But it's quite fascinating, and it's based on some historical references that were found, and so it has some actual rituals, it has some actual plant and stuff like that were used. And so it was actually my first introduction to shamanism, which was not really Native American. It was more of the Celtic or pre-Christian Celtic shamanism. I mean, it's just shamanism, in my understanding, is something that is in almost all indigenous groups. It's not something that we think of it, I think, the most with Native American. But because my first exposure of it was with this particular book, it's what I think of, and it really greatly informed the way that I see the world. And so that's why for me this is kind of Wolf. It's the idea of the shaman, the walker between the worlds, the web of life. Kind of this brings up lots of things for me that is very integral to my current belief system. This one I picked for Achimi, Achimi, and I need to write down, this is Native American, and so this, he's got buffalo horns on, and he also has the owl here, so there's a lot, again, just visually, but this was interesting because he was given a choice between a short and comfortable life in the human world or a long but hungry life in sort of the world of the gods. And so he chose freedom for a long time, and then he realized that that complete freedom was sort of empty, and so then he chose the human life, which was short and confined in many ways, and yet there's so much to offer. So I thought there's a lot you could do with that in divination. This one is just a balance card. I really like how there's a male face and a female face, and then there's like multi faces here. So there's just that idea of balance between the masculine and the feminine, that yin and yang sort of energy. There's a couple other cards already in the decks that have that sort of dual male-female energy, so I wanted to also bolster that. This one I chose for Gitchig-Manitow. This is sort of the All-Father. This is the Great Father. This is the creator god of many Native American tribes. My family has a splash of Native American. My grandfather, my great-grandfather was born in a wigwam and came down the Ohio River from the New York area, and so we were part of the Ojibwe, which I think which is part of the Anishinaabe Indian tribes. And so they use Gitchig-Manitow as that's kind of their all-father god. So like when Christians came in, they used that in place of the word God. So it's that idea of spirit. It's the great spirit, the great mystery, that creator kind of God. And so I wanted to kind of have that as part of it, and that's what I thought of when I saw it. This is the Grandfather Wolf. I really liked this one because the Grandfather Wolf, and this she painted this as Grandfather Wolf. I took a couple classes because, I did have, despite all my English, all of my, all of my Irish and German and Swedish, we do have a nice little dose of Native American in there, and so I took a couple Native American literature classes just to kind of, pay homage to that part of my history. And so, and the teacher there was an Ojibwe and spoke Anishinaabe. It was kind of one of those dying languages that they're trying to reclaim before it's completely lost. So it's fascinating. But anyways, one of the things that I really like about Grandfather Wolf is this is tied to the story called there's a bunch of different, the two wolves. The Wolves Within is the one I have kind of written down here. But it's where, grandfather is talking to his grandson and trying to explain sort of the idea of when you're conflicted within yourself. And so one of the big lines, of course, said in many different ways, is that idea of, the grandson then says, well, which wolf is going to win? And then the grandfather says, the wolf that you feed. So it's that idea of what you feed is what's going to grow and what's going to flourish. So what are you feeding internally? So that, I think, of course, is fantastic to have as a divinatory card. And then this one is quite interesting. Again, I just liked that there had the male and the female, even though the male I thought was dominant, which in the picture, not dominant, but in the picture, which again, I was trying to bring more male energy into the deck. But I did this one I couldn't help it because look, she's got an owl over her head and we've got owls here. And so I did this for Lou and, Blodawed. I don't know how to pronounce that. Again, these are stories that I've seen written down, but I've not heard how you'd say them. But Lou is, and I should have wrote down a little bit more, but it's about the story of the kind of the human story within the gods, as well as the idea of complicated love, the idea of eagles and owls. So Lou is born, and he is cursed by his mother. A couple different curses. I should have wrote it down. One of them, he was cursed to, I think he had to have, the only name that he could take was one that she gave him. There were 3 curses. What was the second one? I can't remember. But the third one of the 3 curses was that he would never marry a mortal woman. And so Gwydion and somebody else, whatever, I can't remember. I'm so bad. I should have re-looked it up. But anyways, they make him a wife out of flowers, and so he's able to obviously marry her because she's not a mortal wife. And so he marries her, and he falls madly in love with her. And of course, he's off on one of his treks across, you know, wherever he's at, Tirnanog or something, and he's off, you know, and somebody comes to visit, of course, a young man, I'm sure, with his group of people, and she falls in love with him, and they want to figure out how to kill Lou so that they can live happily ever after. And somehow she, you know, she finds out how what his weakness is and how she can kill him. But he doesn't tell her the whole truth, so that when her lover goes to kill him, he turns himself into an eagle, which he's able to do, but he's like stuck that way then until Gwydion is, I think, is able to turn him back into a human. And so then they catch her and turn her into an owl, and, you know, lots of different things going on here. But that's what I had. I couldn't help but think. And then, of course, once I thought of that, then it was kind of stuck because, you know, that's just how my brain works. But I think there's a lot you can do with that. You know, love is complicated, and human life is complicated, and we all have these kind of crazy stories at times. But I think there's stuff you can do with that. And again, once I thought of it, it was kind of stuck. So, but I can also just do without those stories, just that idea of wisdom and the owls, and so there's the male and female energy. Like, there's a lot I can do, even in these cards that have the goddesses on. I don't always go strictly off that. Sometimes the image itself has something to say, and that's the same thing that I'll do with this one. So I just thought I put a picture of these up on Instagram, and people were like, oh, you know, you need to see what it is. I have not tried to shuffle these in. I'm not sure how well this is going to... I don't really rifle shuffle these too much energy anyways, because they're quite difficult to do now with the stack being so high. Again, I probably at some point will go through these and thin it out a little bit, because a lot of the goddesses, because they're from different cultures, and so you get a lot of the similar energies, and so I think I can kind of weed those down a little bit so that we don't get as much overlap between the goddess energy, and that would also balance some of that out a little bit. So I do need to kind of go through and fine-tune this deck, and I really need to probably stick it on the floor and do a nice, good, you know, messy shuffle kind of thing. But the way that I shuffle these anyways, because the backs have the names on them, obviously the fronts have images, I don't worry about it. I just shuffle it until I am done, and then I do my typical slide shuffle, and look what we got. We have Apollo here. Now, so that's why I need to break these up, because I can't, let me do this. I didn't give them one really good shuffle. I think those are going to kind of congregate together. So I definitely need to kind of give these an old-fashioned, but I hate to do that because then I got to get them all flipped right side up, which is a pain in the butt. But I find, you know, when you're combining decks like this, I really probably need to put them on the floor and do it. But that makes for me worrying about Isabel. There's another one that I want to actually print out. This one's in black and white, so I could print the one in black and white because that's all my printer will do. So that would add another male energy in. Alright, let's do that. And of course, then I will have to get them all right side up. But for now, we'll just split them off of this kind of good shuffle. But yeah, 100 card. This is now up over 100. So over 100 card decks get to be quite difficult to shuffle. Even when they're nice and compact like this, that's still going to be a difficult shuffle. So let's just split. And there we have, so this one is Grandfather Wolf. We have Lou, and we have Rhiannon here. So there's that. I'm just going to pull a couple just so you can see them all. But I tend to not pull these like this. Like I don't tend to pull like a couple cards. I tend to pull them single cards. So here we have just some random ones. But now I do actually have the ability for some male energies to pop into play, which I'm quite excited about. I'm wondering if they're going to split a lot on those different card stocks. Let's just give it a see. Nope, that's not one. Good. So that's good to know. But you really, from the front, you know, you can't really see them. Like there's one, like they really do blend in really nicely. You can feel it once you pull it out. But they really blend in very well. I just think that from the tops, you can't even tell, you know, that I've made them that way. Like it really fits in gorgeously. So I'm very, very happy with that. And so there we have it. This is my now really condensed, oops, there's a dog over here. He got shuffled over here. Condensed of the Goddess Knowledge cards and the Animal Spirits cards, as well as now kind of just some of her additional paintings with male energies on them to just contribute to the male energy of the deck. So I am just thrilled with my soul deck. And I will say that if you're at all interested, again, you can get these for about $3.50. And they're just gorgeous artwork. There's some gorgeous poetry in here, and just different. I think it's well worth. If you love her artwork at all, I think it's well worth purchasing this deck or this book. Yes, the decks as well, but this book I think is fantastic. I also cut out a couple other things. Let's see here. I cut this totem out because I thought this was really cool for just when I was doing animal energy work. I thought that was quite beautiful. Oops, I got some reading sheets almost pulled in front. I printed this or pulled this out of the back hole. I want to frame this because this was me growing up. And there was one other one, this one, which is one of the cards. But see, this is wolf, and there are crows and ravens, or ravens in the middle, which is my two totems. And I had this one out here as the card, which I put back in. I'm going to put this in my main card space because I think it's gorgeous, and it's me. So that's, there we have it. There we have it. I hope that you enjoyed this. Obviously, if these aren't cards you're interested in, you probably weren't watching this anyways. But yeah, there we have it. I'm really excited about it.